Is it just me, or have games gotten a lot more safe and samey? I don't just mean in the way everyone talks about with AAA being all bland first-person shooters back in the day, or open-world crafting collectathons with skill trees these days, though they are the biggest offenders. But games in general feel like they're just taking less risks, even in indie spaces. A lot of indie titles now easily fit into niches and molds, with Metroidvanias, roguelikes, or building/relaxing games. And while there's occasionally something that breaks out and is totally different, there's barely anything that really catches my eye for how out there or unique it is. And this is a far cry from the older generations of gaming, such as the PS1 or PS2 eras, where you would see strange, genre-bending games that were out of this world all the time. You got strange experimental stuff like Katamari, Seaman, and LSD Dream Emulator that were memorable experiences that you could hardly classify with existing genres. But that age is over now. And yet there are still some studios carrying the torch of weirdness now, and one such studio has managed to find some success either because of or despite this weirdness. And that studio is Young Horses, who you may know from their smash hit of Octodad Dadliest Catch, a strange puzzle platformer that sees you as an octopus trying to accomplish basic tasks and keep your cover as a human, with controls being a bigger challenge than anything else. It was strange, silly, and unlike anything else on the market. It was a massive success, and all eyes were on the studio to see what they'd make next. Though, what they made next wasn't the sequel people expected, but something just as strange and weird as Octodad. That game is Bugsnax.
Like a bargain kind of snack, try to catch it in your trap. Feed the body and you'll see we are whatever we eat. Find them hiding in the sand, tearing up a ketchup patch. Come to Snack Island and discover it's Bugsnax.
Bugsnax is a puzzle adventure game released in 2020 for PS4, PS5, and PC. Though, once again, we have another great game that got stuck on Epic's Game Store where most people didn't see it until 2022 when ports for Switch, Xbox, and Steam came out alongside the DLC expansion Isle of Bugsnax. Now, most people would see the massive time span between Bugsnax and Octodad and assume this is the part where I would discuss a rocky development cycle, but that's actually not the case here for once. The game instead took nearly 8 years simply because the team took their time to figure out what they wanted to make, with many prototypes according to them. The main idea for Bugsnax came just from a simple sketch of a bug made of waffles, and the team went wild from there, throwing on ideas and experimenting till the game was an amalgamation of several concepts and prototypes. The long wait for the game also came from the team not wanting to burn themselves out, according to the devs. Bugsnax is a hard game to describe, but I'll give it my best shot here. Bugsnax is set in a world like ours, but much more colorful and full of strange, Muppet-like people called grumpuses. You are a failing reporter about to lose their job when you get word of an explorer's expedition to a forgotten isle full of Bugsnax, creatures that are part bug and part snack. They invite you to come and you journey to the island looking for the scoop of a lifetime. But when you arrive, you find their camp in ruins and their team scattered across the island after the explorer, Elizabeth Megafig, went missing. It's now up to you to journey across Snacktooth Island and learn to catch Bugsnax in order to bring everyone back and hopefully solve the mysteries of the island. And let me tell you, it's one heck of a journey. Bugsnax is a game that surprised me in so many ways, despite me already going in ready to be surprised and disturbed. Somehow it manages to pack innovative and out there gameplay incredible designs, and amazing character writing into one package that I have been dying to analyze. There will be minor visual spoilers as we go through, and I do think this is a game that is best gone into blind, so do keep that in mind before we go forward. But without further ado, let's dive into what makes Bugsnax so special.
Oh, they're so cute, I could literally eat them up. And I do.
Bugsnax opts for a very interesting presentation, keeping with the cartoony style of Octodad, but going even further into that weirdness. The game both leans into more cutesy and colorful stuff than Octodad did, while also managing to capture something that just doesn't feel right. The result is something absolutely gorgeous that helps elevate the themes and tone of the game. So let's break down how each aspect of the presentation works towards both of these goals while still being excellent. Perhaps the biggest selling point the game had from the start were the Bugsnax themselves. Their designs were the foundation for the game after all, and you can see the work that went into these designs. The game makes sure to stay accurate to the different kinds of insects or arthropods, and this results in some very creative designs such as Skillpede, Spuddy, or of course Scoopy Banoopy. Each is carefully designed to fit the foods to these actual bugs, but also to somehow make stuff designed after the grossest bugs like water bugs, roaches, and spiders into the cutest things ever. With their big googly eyes, silly ways they move around, the absurdity of their designs, and the sound design we'll discuss later, each one is a visual treat in terms of just either being adorable or charming. There's a reason the internet fell in love with Bunger, even if Baby Cake Legs is objectively better. Going past that, the game dives into the cartoony even more, as rather than humans, the world we see is populated with grumpuses, a type of Muppet-like people. I'll admit, these designs took a while to grow on me, but once you get past the initial weirdness, these designs are really charming and expressive with the unique details on each character to reflect their personality, and also just being extra cute in all the promotional art and journal doodles. It's a design choice that easily could have gone wrong and become uncanny, but Young Horses pull it off here. Though, that's not to say it isn't uncanny, as you only get a bit to enjoy these more cutesy designs of your grumpuses before... Yeah, throughout the game, you can play a messed up Cronenberg version of Dress Up with your town, and by the end of the game, you'll probably have a town full of strange, multicolored abominations that are uncanny to look at in all the worst ways. It's perfect. The areas of the game have a similar charm, as each goes for wildly different aesthetics, while throwing out any sort of logic for how they would work, having them all next to each other. This results in some exaggerated areas with incredibly memorable set pieces, because the game just cranks everything up to 11 to be the most interesting it can. From literally going into a volcano, to all sorts of ancient ruins, to the incredible mountain peak, each location grants a memorable vista that with the visual style looks absolutely gorgeous. These end up being spaces that I love to just run around in and navigate for how dense with detail they are. There's not a single boring space in any of these places. And the game's visual design really does capture the vibe of something you'd see in the GameCube or PS2 era, with just how weird and stylized it all is. This general feeling is reinforced through the gameplay and sound design, which we'll get into later. While it won't mean anything for everyone, for those with fond memories of that era, it really hits hard with a feeling of nostalgia and childlike wonder, and it really elevated the experience for me personally. And childlike wonder is definitely how I describe the sound design of this game, as much like the rest of the presentation, it goes for being as cartoony and strange as it can be. This is seen on the small scale, with all the minor sound effects for traps and such being loud and bombastic. But this is also seen in more noticeable ways, such as the jingles for every time you catch a new Bugsnax, which is so perfect of a detail, to the Bugsnax themselves. Young Horses went through the effort to get so many voice actors to make sure each Bugsnax sounds unique, as all of them get the Pokemon treatment with only being able to say their own names in such stupid and silly ways, and it's the most charming thing I've ever seen in a game. I can't pretend I don't quote these guys a ton, especially with Bunger, Poptic, and especially Baby Cake Legs. It's all just hilarious and adds so much personality to the game. And speaking of voices, the voice cast they have for our main characters is just fantastic. The team picked up some surprisingly well-acclaimed voice actors like Max Millman, who played Ryuji and Saitama, Yuri Lowenthal, who played Spider-Man in Ben 10, and the literal voice of Sonic. All of them keep up a perfect balance between the cartoony caricatures and really convincing performances. They can flip between being over the top and depressingly real on a dime. They all capture these characters perfectly, and their delivery carries a good portion of the game's comedy. I wish I could break it down more, but it's something that mostly speaks for itself. But some standouts I can point to are Snorpy,
I am redacted. I have devoted my life to inventing devices that foil the machinations of the Grumpinati.
Eggabell,
What's the point if I can't help anybody? I just sit here all day while everybody else is out there, all productive and happy.
and Shelda.
One who is me is certain, yada yada yada, just get the grumping snacks already.
And the music here. The music here. My goodness, this is one of the best scores I've heard in a game, both in terms of fulfilling its purpose and also just being incredible to listen to. Returning from their work on Octodad is composer Seth Parker, who has clearly improved their musical talents since then. The game boasts a strange synth style that I absolutely adore. The sounds here are just so nice and make for very interesting sounding music. But the strangeness doesn't limit it at all, as it manages to have the range to pull off the full spectrum of emotions, with the help of some extra instruments here and there for stuff like simmering springs. The music manages to make both for incredibly relaxing tunes to explore the main areas, with alternate tracks during day and night to make sure players don't get bored, but also more intense tracks for Bugsnax and the finale. But more importantly in terms of tone, that synthy sound I mentioned before is perfect for setting up the ambience of Bugsnax, as while most of the time it's very upbeat and zany, it always has this strangeness to it, this unnerving feeling to the sound that isn't quite right, that isn't quite natural. It always feels like there's something off about it, and by God, that sets up everything perfectly for the game. The music is something I just absolutely adore, and I highly implore anyone to give it a listen, even if the game itself isn't your thing. But enough about the presentation. Let's dive into what really made Bugsnax stand out to me: the gameplay.
To study Bugsnax, obviously.
Bugsnax is the kind of game I have been wanting for so long, and my goodness does it deliver on the gameplay style. Something to know about me is that if you give me a checklist in a game of unique things to catch with prerequisites to catch them, I absolutely eat it up. Fishing minigames, collectathons, and everything in between gives me so much dopamine. And Bugsnax crafts a perfect version of this that I fell in love with and could not put down. The main gameplay loop of Bugsnax is catching the titular snacks through various means to finish quests and puzzles, so you can unlock areas with even more snacks to catch. The place where this becomes more than just a collectathon is that each Bugsnax has its own unique mechanics that you have to learn and abuse in order to catch it. Whether it be Bunger's aggressive love for ketchup, Crapple's hoarding, or Weenie Worm's shyness, each Bugsnax is sort of made into a puzzle about learning their behaviors, and God, have I been dying for a game like this for ages! The way that puzzles come from these animal-like behaviors really sells a feeling of learning about a living, breathing world of creatures in a way that other creature-catching games have just never been able to accomplish. But the fun comes not only from these behaviors, but also the tools you have at your disposal. Rather than just one simple catching device, you have a whole arsenal of different tools, from lures, to traps, to launch pads, to a ton of other stuff that all interacts with different snacks in different ways. Special mention goes to the sauce system, which is one of the most fun luring systems I've used, with how it can make snacks attack, follow, latch onto, or run into certain things, allowing for so many different puzzles. It really exemplifies the aspect of learning a Bugsnax's behavior, and it allows the puzzles for these snacks to be made even more intricate and fun. And it also lends itself to a feeling of freedom, as where most puzzle games lock you into only one solution, Bugsnax makes for more of a sandbox experience. While snacks certainly do have intended solutions for them, most of them can be cheesed or tackled in different ways that encourages experimentation. Take Cheezer, for example. This is a type of snack that runs around and swiftly dodges traps and the player. There are several approaches the player can take to halt them, from using sauces to lure a more aggressive Spuddy to stun it, or if you don't want to aim, you could wait to use a flapjackerack to pull it into the tornado and stun it. Or you can take the intended solution of using your environment to find the perfect spot to set up your tripwire. And there's probably even more ways to catch them. There's so many snacks in this game that are like this, and allows for so much experimentation and player freedom. Though some snacks are more set in the possible ways to catch them. But for these guys, the game always makes sure to make the way as fun as possible, with creatively using other snacks and the game's toolkit. This is exemplified in the game's legendary snacks, basically the boss fights of the game. These are incredibly scripted, but they ask for interesting and unique uses of the various tools you've used throughout the game to make for an engaging challenge and spectacle. And the areas you travel around are designed to where not only are they fun to run around in, they offer unique challenges to build certain puzzles around, and plenty of snacks such as Intrap, Chippy, Scorpeno, and many others require the player to analyze their environment and figure out how to abuse it. Overall, Bugsnax creates the perfect creature catching experience that I've always wanted, with unique behaviors to figure out, so much player freedom, and engaging environments to work around. But it isn't completely perfect, as there are a few things I think could have been done a small bit better. The first is the mission structure, the thing to keep you going through these areas and catching Bugsnax. And that's all they really ask for. Every mission and side quest is all about catching Bugsnax, and most of the time this works perfectly, due to how fun catching them is, and most of the time these quests ask you to always catch new Bugsnax, or to pay attention to aspects about the snacks, like their flavor, color, or other such things to solve puzzles. The only gripe I have is that sometimes it can get a bit tiring, especially with missions like Shelda's, which require some backtracking and catching of snacks you probably already caught. But this is the exception and not the rule. The bigger critique I have is how some snacks get repeated between areas. Some snacks have variants between the different areas based on different types of food, and these result in a lot of fun designs. The problem comes in that it sometimes can hurt the whole learning the behavior aspect of the puzzles, as well as some variants like the Bungers and Shiska Bugs all result in different puzzles or at least some fun interactions. Others like the Sweetie Flies or Sodies are just don't. They end up being caught in the exact same ways every single time. This happens quite a bit and it doesn't ruin the experience, as it still leads to charming Bugsnax, and each area has more than enough unique snacks. It's just a little disappointing to see a good portion of the roster of 100 being just repeated. I will state though that this is a completely understandable concession given the size of Young Horses as a studio. But nevertheless, it is something I feel could have been improved with maybe just a few tweaks to these variants, like with the Shishka bugs. But don't let these critiques give the wrong idea. Other than these minor nitpicks, Bugsnax creates a fantastic gameplay loop that always had me excited to go into new areas and solve new snags. It really does feel like a game perfectly catered to me. But enough about that. Let's discuss the aspect people have probably heard a thing or two about. The story of Bugsnax.
There was a big fight, and then an earthquake, and then everybody decided they'd be better off alone. They couldn't even keep us together for one day. I honestly don't know what Lisbeth saw in me.
Bugsnax is a game that really surprised me with its writing, though not in the way it surprised most people. For me, I was expecting something with weird, possibly dark elements going in due to what friends had said about the game. Yet, even when I went in prepared to be confused and surprised, I found myself confused and surprised in a completely different way. Bugsnax has a strange but unique tone with its writing that was shown off from the moment the game was unveiled. It was cutesy with bright colors, fun designs, and silly writing, while also showing off strange body horror and a more ominous tone at the same time. No one could figure out whether it was going to be a cutesy fun kids game or a hidden psychological horror. Something people even now aren't sure of. Because Bugsnax does always have that bright and fun tone, yet it also decides to tackle more mature and serious themes when it comes to the individual characters. The Grumpuses were honestly what I expected the least from in this game. I thought they would just be one-note NPCs, there to just be funny and drive along the gameplay loop, much like how it was in Octodad. But oh boy was I proven wrong, because Bugsnax blindsided me with incredibly deep character writing for what I was expecting. Each of the Grumpuses gives a surprisingly intricate look into who they are, as you get plenty of time to interact with all of them through the main game and their side quests. They all have that strong personality and gimmick to all of them that I expected going in, but they're written in a more human way, with all of them having nuances to those caricatures and complex motivations. This results in some very strong and charming characters. But those side quests are where you really get to see deeper sides to all of them, seeing the aspects of themselves they'd rather keep hidden from the world. And this is where even the most cartoony and over the top of the bunch feel like real people. Everyone in the cast has real faults, real struggles, and real reasons for why they all act the way they do. It takes these cartoony caricatures and adds backing and depth to them in a way I really haven't seen before. From Gramble's pet mom persona being built out of loneliness and a need for companionship, to Krondo's greedy salesman persona being built from his desperation and anger towards the world that screwed him over. I really mean it when I say Bugsnax has built one of the best casts I've seen in games recently, each written in a way that really endears them to the player and allows for so much exploration of them. Plus, it also has weirdly good LGBT rep, like better than most mainstream media and something I never expected. So that's pretty cool. But let's be honest, as much as I love these characters, they aren't the reason why people talk about Bugsnax being so surprising. No, that attention comes instead from the strange tone and mystery the game builds up. As much like the trailer shows, the game will have you guessing the whole time whether it's actually a psychological horror game or not. And the way this mystery builds up is incredible, with at first it being aspects you can brush aside, like snackfication or Lizbert going missing. And then things get more and more worrying, with the remnants of old civilizations cropping up, worrying details about Lizbert's disappearance from late game characters, and strange occurrences happening around Snaxburg at night, all with a strange snack cryptid lurking in the shadows. It juxtaposes all of this with the usual comedic and lighthearted tone, which leaves the player utterly confused for what to expect in the end. And it makes the ending hit all the harder. Now, I will give a massive spoiler warning here, as we'll need to discuss the ending of the game, and I think it is something worth seeing on your own. So please skip ahead to this timestamp, or go play it now and come back. You good? Okay. So, the end of the game actually hits that juxtaposition amazingly, as before the ending, you have a freaking dance party of all things, where you see each character at their happiest, before suddenly everything around the island comes crashing down, and you're thrown deep underground as you go to save Lizbert. And here, down in the Undersnacks, you learn the truth of the game, as all those little strange things from before come crashing down to change the tone of the entire game. Because Snaktooth itself is one big trap, an organism made of the parasitic creatures we call Bugsnax, the whole way down. And it turns out all those stories we hear from the Grumpuses of seeing the Snack Squatch, seeing a massive creature, and all the strange aspects of the island are because Lizbert has become an abomination, the queen of Bugsnax. And with these things revealed, everything else in the game takes on a new tone. Why are people being obsessed with Bugsnax? The parasites are just doing their work. Why are some Bugsnax so friendly? Because they want to be caught and spread. Snackification? One part of their takeover. The Snack Squatch? No longer a villain, instead a desperate warning. And that queen of Bugsnax legend you've been dreading? That's who you've been looking for this whole time. Now this is just a masterful plot twist, changing everything we know about the game in one fell swoop. If it wasn't a psychological horror before, it certainly makes future playthroughs into that. And horror is the one way I describe this finale, because as you return to Snaxburg to try to escape, the island no longer tries to hide its nature. The grass turns to food, and the Bugsnax wish to spread whether their hosts want them to or not. And this finale is where Bugsnax pulls its ultimate gut punch, because surprise, your choices throughout the game mattered. Because depending on how many Bugsnax you fed characters throughout the game, the people of Snaxburg can actually die. Like, for real, die. They will collapse into Bugsnax after eating enough in this final sequence if you can't defend them. And their deaths, well, they actually hit hard. All of them basically lost in their delusions as they crumble to pieces and become part of Snaktooth. And God forbid if any of the others are left to witness it. Most people never expected this could have happened to these characters. So man, does it hit hard if it happens on your playthrough. But on the contrary, a more hopeful outcome is available. Because if you've done the side quests, if you have grown to understand these people and show them that Bugsnax are not here to help them, they fight back, willing to grow past their failings, and won't even need your help in this finale as they defend themselves. Either outcome results in a fantastically climactic ending, as you have to use new versions of every single tool in the game to take out Bugsnax from across the whole island and just barely escape with everyone. And after all is said and done, the reflections each character has on the beach after escaping serve as a perfect ending to their character arcs, Whether it's more bittersweet, with them getting dragged into the demons that consumed the one they were closest to, but still finding meaning in their life, or a true happy ending, as they find a more constructive way to solve the problems they wanted to drown in Bugsnax. It serves as a perfect conclusion to all of them. And as a bonus, if you manage to save everyone, the end credits will show every character on their path towards betterment, and sticking together with Filbo as a true friend group. And it's just such a perfect ending to the game. In the end, Bugsnax managed to surprise me in so many ways, even in the aspects where I kinda knew what to expect going in. The writing on display here is silly and creative, yet mature, hilarious and zany, yet full of depth, and bright and colorful, yet also terrifying. It's like nothing else I've ever played, and I loved it. But let's wrap all this up.
Off on us. I can't go back home like this, so is it alright if I stay with you for a while? I can help you with your story. Maybe figure out which parts to tell, or... Great.
Bugsnax is a strange game that honestly feels more like one of those strange unknown games you'd see on itch, appealing to too small of a niche to ever hit it viral. But despite or because of this weirdness, Bugsnax managed to be a decent success. Part of this was due to how the game was kind of made a meme, being one of the few launch titles for the PS5. People went to town making jokes about how Bugsnax is only possible with the next-gen power of the PS5, and truly the future of gaming. And also Bunger helped with the memes. But ironic enjoyment quickly turned into sincere enjoyment upon release, as the game managed to form a cult following, smaller than other fandoms, but utterly in love with the game. And the game turned out to be a financial success for the studio as well, as it outsold their previous hit of Octodad. And with the recent release of the DLC expansion, I'd say Bugsnax has turned out rather successful for young horses. There's a lot of talk around what the studio will do next, and whether Bugsnax 2 is on the chopping block. Personally, I would love to see another game, as I think it could work rather easily with just introducing more puzzles and challenges with new unique Bugsnax with the same gameplay loop. But I can see how that might seem repetitive to people not as enamored with this gameplay style as me. In the end, I'm excited to see whatever Young Horses does next, whether it be a sequel or something new and strange we never could have expected we wanted. After all, the studio seems to be full of surprises, and I think that's just what gaming needs right now. But that's all for now. See you all in the next video, wherever that takes us.